Hi everyone, it's my pleasure to host the industry dialogue, and our topic for the day is effective talent management in a multi-generational and women-led workforce. The present-day workforce is witnessing a growing diversity marked by the convergence of four generations collaborating for the first time. This phenomena introduces a distinct challenge to organizations as they navigate the presence of four distinct generational cohorts working side by side, each with its own set of expectations and demands. Today's discussion will focus on effective talent management in a diverse, multi-generational, women-led workforce. We will discuss strategies and challenges related to managing different age groups and women workforce, highlighting the benefits of diversity and inclusion. The conversation will dwell into the unique characteristics of each generation's work style, communication, and career expectations. Key points including the dynamics of women in the workforce and cross-generational mentorship, flexible work arrangements, tailored training, work-life balance, conflict resolution, succession planning, gender equity, and data-driven decision-making will also be discussed. Challenges like biases, communication barriers, and generational clashes will be acknowledged with practical solutions provided. This discussion offers insights for organizations aiming to excel in talent management within a diverse, multi-generational, women-led work environment. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's session, Sanjeev Lahiri. Thanks for joining, Sanjeev. So let me give a quick introduction about Sanjeev. He's a seasoned professional with 25 years of invaluable experience in the realm of human resources. Currently serving as the Chief Human Resource Officer at GRP Limited, he brings a wealth of expertise to the table. His journey has been defined by his impactful roles in prestigious organizations including Tata Africa Holdings, Tata International Limited, and Tata Communications Limited. He has also been featured in India's top 100 great people managers list to 2023. With a proven track record of driving organizational excellence through effective HR strategies, Sanjeev Lahiri is a true leader in fostering workforce growth, development, and innovation. Thank you once again. Thanks, Sanjeev, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, Sumit. Thanks, TeamLease, for the opportunity.
Thanks. So to begin the session, I would like to know your views on how can organizations harness the unique strengths and perspective of different generations within the workforce to drive innovation and creativity while maintaining cohesive and collaborative environment.
See, it is a fact that organizations are actually having multi-generational workforce today, and that is primarily for if I look at organizations who are a bit traditional, who have been in the system for long, this opportunity, I'm not using the term challenge for now, is amazing. If I focus on India, India has been like, the nursery of unicorns, right? I am not talking about them at this point in time because there may be more a quote-unquote homogeneous workforce. However, the organizations which are kind of a little bit long-standing, they will have this opportunity. Now, how to harness? First and foremost, the entire mindset of organizations of seeing this as an opportunity and not a challenge. Why I'm bringing this point is that a lot of times in forums we get to hear that the kids are difficult to manage. Yeah, and the kids will say the elders don't understand us. However, each and every generation brings in their particular strengths, and I think as leadership of organizations, it is imperative that we match we complement the experience of the past, the knowledge of the past, with the energy, the innovation capability, and the agility of the present. And I think the moment we are able to merge this together, it becomes easy. It is much easier said than done because people have their own quote unquote unconscious biases, right? Whenever we come into work, we we tend to see, okay, the other person, particularly if there is an age issue coming up, we say, okay, kids don't know. But that is exactly where we need to learn to understand, to basically adapt, accept somebody who is much younger in age as a colleague, or somebody with whose strengths that I need to harness or bank on. Similarly, from the other side, somebody who is not as quote unquote savvy as you, does not necessarily mean that that person does not know anything. So it is indeed a mix and match, and the leadership and organizations have a big role to play over here.
And it's a cross-generational collaboration which is required, and for each generation for their experience. Like some people will be tech savvy, some people but they have experience and all. So how you can collaborate the entire thing, giving encouraging the people, giving them respect and all. I think
yes, that is and those are basic human values. One thing that I have seen, which has worked for me in a couple of my stints, which also included multicultural, where people of a lot of other countries coming in together to work, is actually to have a view on the organizational, call it vision, call it purpose, call it the target, call it the North Star. So the organizations must have that set, and then collaborate everybody towards that. I think that works better than talking only of
including this diverse team in obviously the number of cases comes across the problem solving. So you think it makes sense including a diverse team in problem solving approach or any decision which you're taking, because again one side you have people with a very good experience and all, or some mix of it, maybe in a new generation with a different thought process and all. So I think it makes more sense to including everyone for this.
Generations, gender, experience profile, demography profile, everything impacts the human being's thinking abilities, right? So the more diverse an organization is, I am sure the more wider they will be able to think, and thereby getting to a case of problem solving, or even to build up strategies, would be much more stronger.
Right. Totally agree. Okay, I think that was very insightful, Sanjeev. So let me move on to the next question. So when we talk about women empowerment and all those things, I think so. For women-led workforce, what specific strategies can be implemented to ensure gender equity at all levels of the organization? And as per you, how can these strategies contribute, to improve business outcome?
You see, once again, honestly speaking, and I have a very radical thought on that, so pardon me if I'm offending or ruffling some feathers, but why do we need to talk about women empowerment? For me, okay, sitting in my role, or whenever, whosoever, my colleagues in the industry, even business leaders, for us, what we really need to focus is on the talent, right? And therefore, anybody who is bringing the talent on the table is definitely is definitely a resource for us to be harnessed. If I put in this hat, and then if I look at, then honestly speaking, I will not look at genders. I will really not look at any of the things that tend to bifurcate us or divide us, if I may. Yes, I think the main cause of getting the issue on the table, or the main cause of the situation that led to getting the issue on the table, the issue of, say, women participation, or women disparticipation in certain levels of management, or in certain types of jobs. I think a lot has to do with the I will not use the term unconscious bias. I will call it as a conscious bias. We tend to think that, and this does not come unconsciously. It probably comes, even if I know that I'm not thinking right, but I will still think that somebody living that far, if there is a work requirement, this person may not be able to stretch beyond certain times. This person may not be able to travel. There can be, I'm into manufacturing, this concept of heavy work comes in. So women may not be able to do heavy work, blah, blah, blah. The person may choose underlined family over profession, and so on and so forth. My humble point is that if I am dealing with talent, I would let the talent to decide. Yeah. What specific strategies? I think if this is coming from the leadership, if an organization is really looking at openness at all levels and really focusing on the talent, not anything else attached to it, I think for organizations who are focused on this, things are really going to change immediately. That is the first step. I will also talk from the other side. I have seen a lot of times quite a few of my women colleagues who are aspirational, but they at times tend to give up to certain needs, demands, maybe priorities. Now, if it is a personal priority the person is choosing, as an organization, we may not be able to do much. We can probably offer as much as we can. It may include flexibility, it may include any kind of, other means of working, not necessarily restricted only to work from home, but some sort of flexibility. But at the same time, the women colleagues also need to be convinced. I mean, that conviction needs to come in. Yeah, where it means that okay, I'm also at par with other genders, primarily males over here. Yeah, somehow I see sometimes a little miss over there. So a shake hand can happen only with both the hands coming together. The first hand the organization has to definitely bring forward. We have to create a inclusive mechanism. We have to create our policies, processes must be inclusive. But thereafter, adopting that, accepting that, and also putting this one step forward should also come in from our organization.
I think very important thing is why to get to a gender-based biased hiring and all those things is basically right talent as per the fitment, basically what you're looking, rather than getting into which sort of hiring you are doing. But you think, because like you mentioned, if it's coming from the leadership, I think it creates a lot of difference. But again, there are certain strategies at the leadership level coming, down the line. But again, you'll find, you think there has to be some, regular audits and all to ensure that, the things are aligned with the thought process, not only on paper. So that this, the cases where this, I'll not say gender gap, because now we're not talking about gender gap here, but in case there is a, deviation from there, basically what the strategies are in terms of, which is coming from the leadership. You think that, I think that audits and all make more sense there, and obviously some policy like, diverse hiring and all, or some sort of policies are in place, so that obviously one is the percentage what we look for, or in case if I go with your thought, which I think quite good, is more of a fitment rather than getting to a gender-based hiring, which one you can. Obviously, if you require that profile of female, that's fine. If you require male and all, I think that's. But you think, I think this audit part which I'm saying, because this is where when we implement something down the line, maybe because obviously the people who are making strategy, they'll not be involved in all interview process, maybe at a senior level and all they'll be. Do you think it makes sense to have regular checks and balances to ensure we are aligned to what we have strategized, we have planned actually?
Absolutely. So basically, a policy remains on paper unless it is implemented. That's very clear. A policy has to be lived, right? So therefore, and what can speak the truth? Only data speaks. Yeah, we like it or not, it is only the data speaks. And here I think that the HR teams also have a big role, because we are the ones probably who are responsible for maintaining, facilitating the talent in the organization. So therefore, we also need to wear that hat and actually maybe question certain thoughts which might come up in an interview panel. Now, I'm not saying that, okay, some certain jobs, I am absolutely okay, and I'm saying it on record, that there cannot be gender-based talent. Talent is talent. Gender is what the person chooses to identify themselves with, as simple as that, right? So if I am looking at talent, gender doesn't come. One, we need to do some affirmative action to set the records right.
And now today, in today's scenario, you have so much of data, HR analytics, a lot of data, you can easily make it what we are doing actually. Absolutely.
So plenty of record data is available, and we need to then therefore. So for example, if say, I'm just giving a hypothetical example, if say we have a business unit, or say a function where we have either no or less, very, very less participation of women, or say other genders as we may want them to. What is showing that to me? The data. We can always ask the question, and then if you ask the question, and then you say, why we're not able to daily source people? Go back, check the data. How many candidates have come? What have you advertised? Check that out.
Right. What sort of criteria has been
what criteria
shared?
have you put in?
Correct.
Yeah. If the job is advertised as only male, or conversely only female, then you have narrowed your target segment to that. Or for example, you have not mentioned anything, but you are mentioning the terms like he.
And all. So that gives a hint, obviously we are not eligible.
It gives a hint.
Only. Correct.
Yes.
But again, that's require a lot of, I think, analysis in terms of data, then again getting to the depth of it, why it is happening. Like obviously when the size of the organization is quite big and all, though from the data you can make it out, but again, getting into what, like who, like you rightly mentioned, if it's mentioned he and all, obviously he will not apply. But that analytics, so those actions on the ground are required, so that we avoid this gap and all.
Yes. The intent needs to be clear for the organization. Why are we doing it? Are we doing it because it is the right thing to do? Because it is a good thing to do? Because we want to see we are participating in some awards, so therefore we need to actually, show that our strength, women population has increased? Not that. Even that can be true. Fix up the purpose, define your intent, and I'm sure the rest will work. For me, having diverse population actually makes my organization much more stronger. I may not get an ROI day one, but that is what, more than the right thing to do from a business perspective, it is making my organization much stronger. So therefore,
please.
So therefore, I would need that participation across my organization. How I have done. Do I need to set targets? Depends on organizational need. Do I need to, but am I monitoring what I am doing once the intent is set? That is important. If I don't monitor, I miss it. As simple as that.
Right. And you also pointed out, like, depending upon the profile, whether, it will suit to a male, female, there's a certain profile, like you mentioned, the manufacturing part and all. Now, today, when we see this introduction of the technology, I think the profile which are not suitable now, again, they are hiring a lot of women employees there, because there's the change in the profile is there now, because it's not about so laborious work, it's basically easily you can manage with the technology. I think this is where the participation of women are increasing in the manufacturing setup.
It is. Manufacturing still has a long way to catch up with women participation across levels, I must say that. And I'd be really indeed happy to have much more people, much more women in leadership positions of the manufacturing units. Today, somehow there is a conglomeration of sorts at the corporate roles.
Yeah. So you will not find too many.
There are reasons for it. There are reasons for it. At times, the environment also matters. But I'm sure with organizations who are forward-looking, I'm sure they are working on that. We, for one, are working forward for like that. Therefore, let's see how we make it.
So I think the two keywords, if I have to pick here, is one is the intent, like we mentioned, the leadership, and second is the execution, to ensure the ground level the things are getting implemented. I think that's from the entire discussion. That's a key point. And let me move on to the next topic, which is a very interesting one. I think we keep discussing about the work-life balance. I think everybody talks about it. And so work-life balance is a concern, across generation, but when it comes, it's a definition can vary significantly. So how can organizations redefine and support work-life balance in a way that resonates with each generation's expectations and realities? Now, even I think if I have to edit here, I think the work-life balance today we start talking about work-life integration, rather than only balance part. I think the both are concept a little overlapping, but I think the way the things are changing is more of a work-life integration. So just your thoughts on that.
The term has been cliched. Work-life balance, the way it started coming post 2020 and thereafter, I think somehow the term has been very, very cliched, and unfortunately the term more often tends to represent work from home, which I have a fundamental disagreement with. Right. The other point is that organizations have also tried to define a one-size-fits-all kind of strategy. Okay, so point is, this is a very, very personal experience. It's how I will define my work-life integration stroke balance, right? I think is going to be different from any one of us, because my priorities may be different from the others.
Right.
Now, I just mentioned 2 points here. One, once again, it's a matter of priorities for an individual. Okay. Now, if as an individual I think that I can manage this much work in this much time, and the rest of the time I can do things that I pursue, may not be always family, but it can be for myself, as simple as that. It's on to me. From an organizational perspective, what is important is the contribution. Right? We all are there in an organization. Each one of us, everybody, is in an organization for a defined contribution that we are expected to make. Right? For making that contribution, given the personal stroke societal needs, wherever the organization can facilitate, it can. I think it should. But beyond that, once again, the handshake has to happen from both sides. If as an individual I choose that, look, whatever the organization is facilitating for me is not working for me, I may need something else, by all means, then look out. Yeah. I am not
also, yeah, even we're talking about, I'll just add this one point here. We're talking about multi-generations, how the communication happens. Even like you also mentioned, the preferences are different. Maybe let's say somebody has passed on, maybe somebody is interested to go for higher studies, they want to go for a loan and all. Or maybe somebody was at at a retirement age, they look for how I can secure my, retirement phase, after retirement, so some benefits attached to it. It's not like a same policy for all. Today, after retirement, people don't get into all those. If we talk from the employer perspective, very few employers will find they are offering those, benefits. So I just thought I'll just add it, yeah.
No, we need to understand this part. Just you made this interesting point of loans. Now, why were organizations giving loans earlier on, including study loans? Why? Because it was not as much available from the market, and there was a need. So organizations came in. In my earlier life with the Tata Group, there are a lot of people-friendly policies, call them welfare measures, and so on and so forth. In today's context, is it needed? Will the organization need to take that? The organization can always facilitate that particular availability for an employee. And I think that if the organization has done that, the organization has done its job, number one. Number two, coming back to this individual choices and all. So see, the organizations have to create this balance. Yeah. Why I'm saying the organizations have to create this balance, because it once again happens from two ways. One is, if say the younger ones who tend to look at, or rather who tend to actually ask these questions of remote working, work from home, blah, blah. One is, they also need to understand, can my job be performed working remotely? Our own example, we are into manufacturing. Most of my roles cannot be remote working. Cannot. You have to be there on the machine where the things are happening, right? I cannot, even if I wish to. That understanding is needed, number one. Number two is that for the rest of the organization who have been used to work from office, yeah. So people in my age group, for example, we also need to be aware that work can also happen in a different way. What we have done, so same thing happens at home, right? The way we grew up. Are children growing up in the same environment? Absolutely not. They're a different breed of people. Yeah. Their life story, their realities are different from what we had. So if we are accepting that at home, why can't we not accept that at workplace? Is a question that I have for people in my generation, number one. From organizations need to maintain this balance. What is acceptable? What can be done? What cannot be done? Once these things are clear, people definitely can be, free to choose. in terms of
also
what fits
targeting the
them,
specific
what does not.
generation and all, right? The category of people you have, because they have their own preferences.
The generation, it can be individuals. Who says that people at, say, I mean, people at my age may choose to, or people from my generation would actually want to come to office every day. May not. I may have my other needs. So, can an organization create policy for everybody? Definitely not. But can an organization create this list of acceptable, unacceptable? I think they can, based on what the business need, not because people have to always come to work. If the business need, or if the work facilitates people work remotely, but I think by all means organizations should do that.
So what
Where
the role
it is not
requires,
possible, it is
basically.
not possible. As simple as that.
Correct. So what the role requires, basically, the policies is to align with it rather than getting an individual. Maybe some exceptions are possible, but not all.
Bingo.
Like you rightly mentioned, manufacturing setup, then you have to do production. You can't do remotely. You have to be there.
Manufacturing, infrastructure, project management, it is happening there. It is happening in the Gemba as we talk.
Yeah. So there's some roles maybe manufacturing people can operate remotely also, but not exactly where it is required. So I think it's more role is specific rather than individual specific, basically, what we need to target.
It is the role. From an organization perspective, I should be able to look at the role. If the individual fitting in that role is okay with whatever is being offered, it's a win-win for all. If it is not, we can somehow give some flexibility here and there. But beyond that, then we'll have a larger audience to face. So we need to be, my only bottom line as organizations, we need to be consistent with our approach and our policies.
Right. Thank you so much. So with this, I'll come to the end with my last question, Sanjeev. So the generation, anyways, we've been discussing on the generations, multi-generations, communication order. So generation clashes are natural, and when you have a diverse age groups and all, how you can collaborate these people, and how can the conflict resolution strategies be tailored to address these clashes and promote harmony, creativity, and shared goals? Because obviously different experience, like you mentioned, demographic factor and so many things will come into this thing discussion. So how we can go about it so that end of the day it's a harmony which is maintained and we achieve the goals, and obviously people can give their best.
Couple of pointers here from me. First and foremost, as I said earlier, focus on the organization goal. Why are we here? What do we need to do? So if that goal is clear, everybody focusing towards that, I'm sure half the problem is sorted. Second is from I won't call it generation, I will say all individuals, all of us, we need to be taking that thing off our head that this is what used to happen or this is what must happen, right? The focus is what do we need to do to achieve our goals. And the third thing is that how do we really include everybody? That is where a lot of conversations need to happen in terms of leading back to the purpose, of course, but also what is preventing us from doing that. So if there is a team situation, there are ways and means. I'm not going into a talent management lecture here, but there are ways and means to identify, to understand, and also to basically get insights and solve these issues. At times, the whole concept of crucial conversations may be needed. People may be avoiding talking on something which actually everybody is getting bothered with, right? Bringing up that issue on the table. Conflict is a word. And conflicts are needed. Unless there are conflict, you will really not be able to think beyond. But it has to be a productive conflict. And the conflict cannot be shoved under the carpet. So there has to be somebody, and leadership has a big role to play here. The HR teams also has a big role to play here, to be able to identify things dispassionately and bringing it up on the table, facilitating a conversation around that. And I'm seeing, and I personally think when we have this kind of conversations where the environment is safe, I'm sure there will be there will be a mutually agreed a way towards a solution. And then people need to be convinced to the self-conviction or the team's conviction in holding on to what has been decided needs to come. I agree today on the table, tomorrow then some of us start behaving differently, that will not. that must have its
It takes
impact.
time. Yeah, totally. It's not like overnight some that change will happen and all. But I think the few important points you touched upon here, if you have to pick those one, I think one is the communication, which is very important, in this particular thing. Second is adaptability, the way things are changing, like what the thought process I have with my experience now. Obviously, the new people will not have, the new generation and also that adaptability. And I think in both levels, it's not about the old generation only has to update. The new people also understand, there are people who have experience and also what best can be done. And I think that point you mentioned, the inclusiveness. You need to include different people in the thought process. And important, I think, if there's no conflict, so when obviously HR work will go down little, that will reduce. But yeah, that's very important point which touched upon. I think the conflict is required. So you come up with new ideas also. If everybody's talking the same thing, there's no disconnect, but a healthy conflict, you can discuss basically. I think very important because normally people talk about conflict management and all, but it's the other angle. Conflicts are also required so that new things comes up, the new ideas on the table basically. I think very, very good points you mentioned. Thank you so much. So with this, we come to an end of this session and would like to thank you, Sanjeev, for joining us and sharing your views on today's topic. I think that's quite insightful. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed interacting with you. Thank you so much and have a great time ahead.
So thank you. Thanks once again. Privileged with the opportunity, and love the conversation as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much once again. Thank you.